Welcome. My name is Dr. Crystal Nix. I'm a chiropractor and certified acupuncturist. And Dr. Dayton here, Joel, is my husband, and he's a chiropractor as well. And we love being able to equip our community on ways to be able to take care of themselves. So this month, it's Metabolism Month. And let's go ahead and go over. Oh, let me go ahead and get out of that. Um, I need to, there we are. Okay, be able to switch the slides there. Okay, let's go over the goals for today. We want to make sure that you can feel like you can walk away having some answers. First off, knowing, okay, are you in control of your metabolism or is it controlling you? Good little question to think on. Just knowing the basics also of metabolism.
Got bit by mosquitoes.
We're
I
going to go
bit by two already.
and make sure that we've got everyone muted. That way we can
We're good.
write down here as well. Okay. And then from here, exploring the relationship between healthy lipid levels, blood sugar, and weight, because those all work together when we're talking about our metabolism. And then just learning tools where you can be in that driver's seat to make more informed choices so you can have cardiometabolic health. And it's not just you listening to all the voices around you, but you can have a strong voice in knowing how you want to proceed in your health. So, first off, let's start with getting a pulse. So, just take a second. If you've got a paper or if you've got even your phone there, you can make a note. I want us all to kind of rate ourselves with each of these from a 0 to 3 scale. So let's say for energy, for example, if we have no energy and it's just I can't get out of bed at all, that would be a 0. But if it's like I've got enough energy, I'm solid all day long and everything there, then that would be at a 3. So if you can do that for each of these, 0 to 3, and then the one is like I'm on the lower side, two is like okay, I'm doing all right. So just rate yourself for each of these on the energy. How are you feeling on the weight side? If you're feeling pretty good, or if you're like okay, I could shed a few things there. Sleep, is it disrupted? This, I always like to ask our patients, okay, do you have trouble falling asleep, staying asleep? All of that can uh, be involved with how you would rate yourself in your sleep. And then mood, how do you feel? Do you tend to feel pretty level and pretty happy? And then versus that stress one on the end, if we do have stressors come up, how do we bounce back? Does it just really pull us down where it's really hard to make that bounce? Or is it okay, I can actually I recognize it, I embrace what I'm going through, and I'm gonna create some solutions here. And then the clarity, man, with mental fog and that ability to have focus and memory, just think on, okay, how's my clarity doing? 0 to 3 there. So if you've gotten that down, now you have a snapshot of where your own cardiometabolic health is. So we're going to go into that, and I want you to kind of look at your scores and see how do you match up with kind of how the country is doing in cardiometabolic health. So here is the stat. Only 6.8% of the adults in our country have optimal cardiometabolic health. So if they took that survey, they would have all threes. That would be one way. And then also their blood markers would be in the optimal range, which we're going to go over that in just a little bit. But only 6.8%. My goodness, that's not very many of us out there. So if you do, awesome, great job with your optimal cardiometabolic health. But why does this matter? So here it gives us this really great explanation. It's having this cardiometabolic health means that our body can digest and absorb our nutrients. And this would be in stable levels, both in our blood sugar and our blood fat, which includes our cholesterols, triglycerides. We're going to go into those, and then even our insulin. We want to have some fluctuations. That's going to happen naturally, but when we have spikes, that can create some long-term issues. So, and that's why, again, it's the cardio side and the metabolic side. Each of these lead into how is our biological age? And what that looks like is, okay, are we actually feeling well? Like what we were talking about here with our pictures of our survey. Are we, how are we doing on our feeling side? And then how are we doing on our actual activity state? So when we know that we're in more of that optimal range, it just helps us to really feel like we're thriving. So let's go into some of those basics here. The organs involved in our metabolism. You can see cardio, that's going to be our heart, of course, and then the metabolism is really the liver. Those are the two big guys, especially the liver. But others that we might not always think about that are also involved here is the brain. The next here, red blood cells, this is our transporter of our cholesterol and these sorts of things. The adipose tissue, these are our fat cells. That's involved in our metabolism, and therefore also our skeletal muscle. Those kind of go hand in hand, the fat cells and our skeletal muscle. So these are all of the organs that are involved in having healthy cardiometabolic states. So what about the lab ranges? This is a good snapshot of the different ranges that we want to be able to look at and see. All right, if I want to know my profiles, these are some really excellent markers to look at. Everyone knows about cholesterol and triglycerides. A little bit lower down, those last two, those are ones that aren't as people don't always recognize them and or know them as well. The C-reactive protein, that is our inflammatory marker, as well as the homocysteine there. So with these ranges there, we've got the uh, green row right there. That's actually our optimal range. The white one is what you'll see when we're looking at our lab report. So traditionally, sorry, we were hearing a little bit of feedback. We're going to try to all make sure we're muted. Um, so if we can have our ranges in that green range, that helps us to know, okay, we are we're not going to have as many of the symptoms. So sometimes you might say you go to your doc and you've got your labs back and you're like, man, everything's in range, but why do I feel so, why do I not feel right? It might be that the range is not within that optimal range where we can see, are we trending in that hypo side or the hyper side? So that just means, are we off in one direction of having too little of what we need or too much of what we don't need? So that's where those green levels show up. If you can see there, that first one, the cholesterol. So you can see the upper range there is, I need to move this. Okay, it's got that 100 to 199 for our typical labs that we're going to be seeing in our reports that we get back. That optimal range is much more forgiving on that upper side. It's at 220. We're going to go into why, because cholesterol is a necessary uh, chemical for our body and many different functions. Triglycerides, however, are smaller. You can see here the lab ranges that we typically get back on our reports is up to 149, but this is really where a lot of the plaquing is it derives from. So that's why it's more in that 110 range. The others we're going to go over in a little bit too, HDL and LDL. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So I like to create kind of an understanding of like using metaphors so we can make sense of these terms, these chemicals. So triglycerides versus cholesterol. So triglycerides here, let's just think of them as packaged storages of excess energy. And that excess energy in food form is called calories, right? So we just pack on the triglycerides on ourselves so that when we're exercising or when we're in a high stress time, our body can pull out that package, open it up, and use it to give us energy, right? So that's what a triglyceride does. We want to have some triglycerides so that we can be able to have enough energy throughout the day, even. We don't even have to be working out to just be active through the day, too. The cholesterol, however, is different. It's a building block. It's used to help build some very important things here. So what are those things? One of the building blocks that cholesterol makes are our hormones. So you can see here that first picture, that blue one is cholesterol, and the arrow shows us, okay, it's transferring and making progesterone. From there, progesterone branches off and makes a bunch of other hormones down below it. But you can recognize some of these. You've got some of the reproductive hormones, testosterone and estradiol. These other ones here are more our stress hormones, the aldosterone and the cortisol. You might have heard of cortisol levels, right? So we can see, all right, our cholesterol is needed to help fuel our reproductive hormones and our stress hormones. That's significant. And I want to differentiate here the difference between the HDL and LDL because the HDL, that's the good guy that they always say. It's called high density lipoprotein. And what that means is just that it's a heavy fat. So what do heavy things do? They fall out. So think of that's the thing that the body is getting rid of. So the HDLs, the reason why it's considered the good guy is because the body is getting rid of that. It's getting rid of that type of cholesterol out of the body. It's excess. The LDL is low density. So what does that mean? It's lighter. And therefore it's able to float around better. So what does that do? It's floating around in our body with those red blood cells and it's being transported to our adrenal glands or our reproductive organs so that it can convert to what? These hormones here, these reproductive hormones or these stress hormones. So the HDL and LDL, they aren't good guys or bad guys. One is just leaving the body. That's the HDL, the heavy one. And the LDL, the light one, is staying around to make something. It's making our hormones, or on this other picture that you see here, it's our phospholipid bilayer for our cell. That's what that red and blue picture is. It's the membrane surrounding a cell. And that phospholipid bilayer, you can see here on that bottom corner, is made out of cholesterol. We need cholesterol. So it's had such a bad reputation, and we want to make sure that it's understood that it has a need in our bodies. Okay, so we've talked about a few different things here, right? We've talked about stress, we've talked about eating and movement. So, how does this all come together with our metabolism? These are really our pillars to help us to have that cardiometabolic health. So, if we're moving, our body is using up those storage, those little packages better, right? We're actually getting to use that energy so we don't have an excess of those packages hanging on. We're moving. If we're eating well, we're going to have a good ratio of food so that our body isn't holding on again to too much because all of those packages is that excess amount of food present. We also talk about stress, right? So, stress and healthy relationships, if we have those in a good range, then we're not going to have imbalances in our hormones. But if we do have imbalances in our hormones, our body prioritizes fight or flight. It wants us to survive more than reproductive hormones. And so that's why if we're in a constant stress state, our body is going to pad itself up and say, I need to make sure I'm ready to run. And if we have, again, those relationships or just stressors that are affecting us, then we want to run. And so we want to pad ourselves to have that energy. So if we can keep those in ranges that are more manageable, then again, we have less of a need to pad and using smart supplementation. So those are going to be our tools that we're going to tap on here. That healthy eating side, just so you know, we're going to refer you back to the New You Nutrition class that we did earlier this year if you really want to have a deep dive into how can I eat well. So tonight we're going to focus more on the metabolism in particular, but the healthy eating is available if you need it. It's on that simplehealers.com website and just go to New You Nutrition video.
And it's really important to set as a foundation.
Yes.
So that's why we've taught it first before.
Yes,
Yep.
here it is with that foundation. So at the beginning of this year, and this is what we do every year, is we start off with nutrition because this is the base of our wellness pyramid. This we didn't create this pyramid. It's actually one that doTERRA has created, but it's been one we as practitioners have followed over the years. And when we saw this, it's like, this is what we do. So having that nutrition and digestion base is why we want to have that first circle taken care of, right? Last month, we've been doing movement. It was Movement March. So that was to be able to help get our metabolism ready and strong. So that's what we're doing today. But what about the stress side? That's what we're going to be doing next month and the sleep. So just know that we're trying to make sure that you can be able to really thrive. And that's why we're trying to create these habits, kind of a month-long habit at a time of saying, okay, let's get the nutrition in place now. Let's get the movement in place now. Let's get the metabolism solid and then take care of some stress. So let's focus on our tools. And this is really going to be with our supplementation. So I wanted us to be able to understand the difference between using vitamins and then using essential oils. They have different purposes and we need both. So the vitamins really help us with more organ function, whereas the essential oils help with cellular pathways. What does that mean, right? So I don't know a lot about cars, but I can tell you I can understand what a clogged up catalytic converter looks like in this picture. It doesn't have very many holes for uh, what needs to penetrate through. It doesn't have enough there. Whereas the clean one, okay, everything's cleared off. There isn't as much debris there, right? What this is for us to think about our liver. Our livers get clogged up. And so, therefore, we need to have it declogged, decongested, and our vitamins really help with that organ function, right? Okay, now that other picture here, this is the cellular pathway. So again, going along with the idea of a car, we can have all the right parts and they can look squeaky clean, but if they're not firing properly, what's it doing? It's just sitting. That car won't do anything for us. It needs to have pathways that help it to fire and go and have reactions going. And that's what those cellular pathways are. So that brings us back to cholesterol converting and becoming different hormones. So we want both to happen, right? We need our organs to function and we need reactions to be happening properly to have that cardiometabolic health. So we're going to focus on vitamins first and then the essential oils there too. So this here is a blend of, it's called VMG. It's vitamins, minerals, and greens. And that's important because the greens there are huge at supporting the liver. The liver, again, it needs ways to be able to help it to get decongested, and greens help in that process. So one of the main greens that are present is holy basil. So you'll see here on that right above kind of the artichokes and the lemons here on that left side. It goes into what holy basil is doing for us. And this is the source of many of the vitamins present in this supplement. So it's helping blood sugar as well as our cholesterol, even our adrenals and the cortisol production. So that way, if we are in a high stress season of life, our adrenals are being supported and that hormone, it's both the gland and the um, the cellular function there with the um, cortisol. It also is a detoxifier, so it's just helping to declog, pull out some of those toxins that are present in the liver. Then you'll see in the other top two circles there a ton of different greens, ones that we might eat often, things like kale, celery, spinach, and then ones that we might not eat very often. Barley grass, spirulina, chlorella. We don't always eat those. Um, and then on that cellular supportive pathways, I wanted to just point out a couple of the herbs there that are, again, specific to the liver. So the turmeric, grapeseed, ginkgo biloba, and ginger, these are all known. Research studies have shown that they have tremendous support on that liver.
And can I just interrupt for just a
Please.
sec?
Yeah.
She keeps highlighting the liver
Yes.
because the liver is in charge of packaging your cholesterol. It's in charge of storing and breaking down cholesterol. So when your body needs extra energy, the liver goes into action into metabolizing and breaking down fats for you to use as energy. So that's a lot of times why people will end up having a fatty liver because it's not metabolizing properly. The fats are not being broken down properly. And as a result, fat is stored inside the liver rather than being broken down. So sorry, I just
No,
wanted
that's
to, yeah,
great. Thank
highlight
you.
that.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then that last part here is this complex here, this vitamin mineral greens complex, or it's really a greens drink that actually tastes good compared to most. Uh, it has essential oils present with it, and a few of those essential oils are lemongrass and ginger. What these are doing is it's actually helping all those vitamins to be absorbed and retained in our body compared to just, okay, I took my vitamins and then there it goes out of me. So those are all really important. Now, when we're talking about nutrition, we want the vitamins, minerals, and then the greens present, but we also need our omegas to create that solid foundation. The reason for that is because, again, if we have healthy amounts of healthy cholesterol present in our body, then we can be able to convert to our hormones, right, and to our cell walls. So then our body doesn't have to hold on to those extra storages of fat. Omegas have been proven from a variety of different research studies to help with our metabolism, our liver, and our heart, therefore. So these are just a few of the different findings: blood pressure decreasing, resting heart rate, risk of coronary heart disease. Those all have dramatic decreases when we have omegas present. So something that I do like to differentiate when we do have patients that we're working with that are more predisposed to higher levels of triglycerides and cholesterol, we sometimes find that the liver does better with the vegan sources of omega compared to the fish oils. So those vegan sources, that's the black and yellow bottle there, the VE omega. They're coming from sources of algae, borage seed, cranberry, pomegranate grape seed, and a variety of other vegan sources, but those are the main ones. And the body, it just has a thinning effect on the cholesterol compared to but still providing enough of that omega, of the ADA, EPA, all of those that we need. Another thing that both of these provide us are the essential oils. So they're helping our organs and they're helping our cells. So they have that vegan one has frankincense and clove, and then that orange one has orange, wild orange present, and therefore it can help in more of those cellular pathways. So we've had a few patients who've been taking these over the years. One in particular, he let us know. He actually was doing his labs with his primary care physician and had let us know, oh, my markers, my cholesterol markers have dropped 30 points as I've been taking these vitamins and the fish oils there. And his doc was like, I, kind of speechless. He hadn't seen that really. And it was just as he changed the supplementation. So now that we've gone over the vitamin side, now let's talk about helping with our pathways. So first thing, when we're talking about the liver, if we want it to get to that decongested state and where it's converting properly, or converting the cholesterols properly, we want to be able to release the toxins. Because again, remember that catalytic converter being all clogged up, we want that to be unclogged. So one of the things that we need is this enzyme called CP450. It might be a little familiar because Dr. Dayton here, he talked about this a couple months ago in the New You Nutrition, but just so that you can have kind of a refresher, what this enzyme is doing is it helps convert the toxins within the liver to a more water soluble. So what does that mean? Think of lipids, right? They're very greasy. They're the things that make it congested. but if it's more water soluble now, therefore it can be able to be released and excreted as opposed to held within. So ways that we can be able to have more of these enzymes, because if we have adequate levels of this enzyme, then those toxins can be released from the liver. So a few of these sources here are rosemary oil and juniper berry oil, which are in this Zendocrine soft gel. Well, I'll go over that study here in just a second. Those along with the cruciferous veggies, so all the ones that were in that VMG together, they can really help this enzyme, the CP450, to be in those adequate amounts to help pull out those toxins. So another patient of ours, he had been taking this in particular, along with a few other vitamins, but this was the biggest thing where he had an even more dramatic change in his lab work, where it dropped in his cholesterol levels 100 points. That's huge. Just doing these, natural things, and then he had changed up his diet quite a bit as well, to just be more mindful and healthier. And then also his triglycerides dropped by 35 points. So this was such good news to be able to see there are some natural ways that we can be able to help take care of these to maintain healthy levels of our cholesterol and triglycerides. Now, for our second step. So that first one, right, was releasing toxins. Now, what do we do when we have those toxins released? They could just stay in our bodies if they're just floating around and they don't have anything to bind it and remove it. So we need something that can help with that, and that is called glutathione. So you'll see under the top metabolic use here of lemon, it says toxicity and low glutathione production. Lemon essential oil is known to be able to help produce higher levels of glutathione. So therefore, it's that binder to help pull those toxins that we pulled out from here. Now those toxins are floating around. This lemon helps produce that glutathione to pull it out of the body and get it out. So we're not just having toxins running around free and creating free radicals in our body. So, and then you can see the list of other health benefits. And one of the big reasons why lemon is so great at helping the liver is beyond the glutathione. But that second point, liver and kidney toxicity, is because you'll see on the lemon essential oil top properties down a little ways. The last one, it's a degreaser. And that third one from the bottom says it's mucolytic. What that means is that it's really helping to thin out any grease. So think of when you're working on like a sticker, or I think of a sticker because like if you peeled one off and it's got that residue on a book, we actually use lemon essential oil on the book, and it just strips all of that stickiness from the outer cover from where that sticker had been. Like it just pulls it right away. There's no
Residue.
stickiness. Yeah, nothing left. So that's doing the same thing for us with our liver. It's getting all of that greasiness of the cholesterol and the triglycerides and the other toxins stuck in that liver, helping it to get more squeaky clean, just like that catalytic converter, right? So it can actually filter properly. So we had another patient, she has used lemon essential oil, and her levels were in a range where she didn't have to take medications and wanted to try to get closer in range naturally, and was using the lemon essential oil, and she dropped 40 points in her cholesterol, and her doc was like, what are you doing? I've never seen anyone do that without medications. And she just said, it's one drop of oil and rubbing it on my on my liver. I'm doing that every day. So these are just to help us to see the significance of the vitamins and essential oils in our bodies making tremendous impact, not just on how we feel, but in our actual labs. So we have talked a lot about the cholesterol side, but what about the triglyceride side? Remember, our triglycerides, right? There are packages. So if we have our fat cells present, we're all born with a certain number of fat cells. That's what you'll see in that first picture. And as we age, they will mature and they will grow bigger. And we can't actually change the number of fat cells that we have, but we can change the size of them. So the triglycerides, again, these are what are contributing to those fat cells. They are the packages of our energy. So what we can do to be able to help with our triglycerides is be able to use some essential oils. This blend, the MetaPower blend, it has lemon. We know all the good things about lemon, as well as cinnamon, ginger, and peppermint. And I'm missing one, but those together have a tremendous effect on the fat cells. So Joel, do you want to share a little about your experience with
Oh yeah.
using the
So
soft gel?
I used this actually it's been a year and a half ago, but I had been feeling like I'm a little bit big on my waist, and I used this for 2 months, and I used it 3 times a day. It comes in just a little soft gel, and in a matter of it was just 2 months, I went down 2 pant sizes. And so yeah, I lost 2 inches on my waist, which was really, really significant. And yeah, it was really amazing. Like I just thinned out. I actually did not lose weight, which was really interesting. Then I integrated intermittent fasting into my regimen, and then I actually started losing weight. So it was kind of a fun little exercise for me, especially since I was like, oh, I'm getting a little bit chubby around the waist. I want to thin out a little bit. So yeah, it was really, really great, really easy to use.
So that is specifically the MetaPower oil in the capsule form, that soft gel form. Another form that it comes in are these beadlets or even the gum. We like the beadlets just because what that does is that if we're just kind of having a little craving or if we are doing intermittent fasting, then it helps us to make that jump from one meal to the next easier, where we don't have to be so munchy. So that soft gel, I'm sorry, those little beadlets, what they do is they just you burst it in your mouth, and that flavor of the cinnamon and then the ginger and the lemon and peppermint, they make it feel like, oh, I've got kind of a sweet taste now, so my palate can feel a little bit more satiated. So one, it's helping to curb our sugar cravings, but it also helps us to feel more satiated. It's helping um, our gland and our brain to be able to feel like, all right, I'm met. I have that satiation level more easily met. So those are just a couple of things that have helped in terms of more the triglycerides and the blood sugar, the sugar cravings, I should say. But we also need to take care of the blood sugar because, again, if we have these excess uh, food energy, usually it's coming from simple carbs. So things like pastries, uh, like
Pasta,
pastas,
breads,
yes,
yeah.
yes, those sorts of things. Those are floating around, and it just gives us those spikes, and therefore our body's like, what do we do with all of this? Let's just package it on us, and we can't just get rid of it. We got to figure out what to do with it, and so it pads. And so a way to be able to help, so we're not dealing with those spikes. One, so we're not padding, but two, so we don't have to deal with that crash, our energy crash, is use this metabolic assist. So it has those oils in it, the MetaPower oils, as well as mulberry leaf there present to be able to help with those spikes to be leveled out. You can actually see that here in this study where it shows you can see there's more of those spikes happening here in that first graph, and then the blood sugar is more at the 102 average range. Whereas with the assist, you don't see it's much more level, it's much more calm and placid. You don't see those waves up and down. And then the blood sugar is at 89. So that just helps us to know, okay, if I need to be able to work on this from a whole perspective of our nutrition, but what can I use beyond nutrition? These are a few different tools. So we want to make sure that you can really feel like you're the driver and not just a passive passenger who is told, okay, this is what you have to do for your cholesterol, this is what you have to do for your triglycerides, but you can take that active stance of, all right, I'm going to help with my stress levels and my eating and my supplementation, and really be able to say, all right, I can do some things on my own. And yes, I'll partner with practitioners if when I need to as well. But you get to be in that primary role there. So we wanted to go back to this pyramid just because, again, each of these are building upon each other. And so we want to make sure that you are in the loop. So next month, it's the first Thursday. Each month, we're going to be doing a workshop. So that one will be more in relation to the stress side.